Good morning, everybody. Welcome to class today. Uh, Normally, I'd start out the stream with a couple of class announcements, but I don't really have any today. I'm currently in the process of grading your Module 7 assignments, looking through all of your technical documentation that you've done. Got some of them graded. We'll try to have the rest of them graded as soon as possible. But today we're talking about product evaluation strategies. So this is Module 8, Product Evaluation Strategies. And as you kind of look at the idea of product evaluation strategies, one of the things that you might be wondering is, well, like if I'm just the low man on the totem pole, if I'm the bottom guy in the tech support area, what would I even have to do with product evaluation strategies? What would be my input into product evaluation strategies? And I'm here to tell you this morning that actually, by and large, your role, even if it is small, can be incredibly important in the area of product evaluation in order to try to make big purchases for your company to support technology going forward. So the first slide that we have here is having to do with your role as a user support agent in these product standards. And then as we work through product standards, we build from these product standards to the product evaluation. So really at the core of what we're looking at when we're evaluating products is going to be based on the product standards that are built by the experts. And if you'll remember back to last week when we were talking about technical writing, we were talking about technical writing being writing from the perspective of somebody who works in that profession, has that business. And so as a result, what we see is you, as the tech support agent, being the subject matter expert, or just the expert in general in terms of the technology related areas. And this extends into here when we're looking at product standards for product evaluation. You, as the subject matter expert, have the expertise to evaluate the products that are related to your area. I mean, just think about it. As I've seen in a lot of your discussions, as I've gone through and graded, and you're talking to one another about the different things that you've purchased and the different things that you regret purchasing, and you've analyzed these things from particular points of view. I can see just in that alone that your experience and your knowledge of technology plays a great part in the types of products that you purchase in your personal lives. And when we get into a business setting, it's that expertise, it's that knowledge, it's that experience that's going to be building on the product standards, the baseline of what we need for a product to work in our environment. So support workers often have this expertise that other people don't. You wouldn't trust the opinion of someone who's never owned a car and never, has always walked everywhere in regard to what you should buy for your next car. It's this expertise, it's this experience, it's this knowledge that builds this trust. And so the first thing that we do here by putting the onus for developing these product standards onto support agents is one that we eliminate the duplication of effort. Because we've all probably experienced it at some point where somebody makes a decision and it goes sideways, and you think, or you just tell them flat out, if you would have involved me, Since I understand, I know a lot about this particular thing, if you would have involved me, we could have saved ourselves some time and effort. Because now, instead of just having a product that works that we can go forward with, we have to go back. We've invested this time, invested this money into this product that doesn't work. And now we have to go back, reevaluate things, and try to find something that does. So by including you as the support agent in the development of the product standards, the first thing that we're doing is we're eliminating that duplication of effort. Another thing that we're doing is, wouldn't it be great to have a hand in creating or purchasing or whatever the things that you're going to be supporting? Right? Like these product standards that you're purchasing, the items that you're purchasing for your organization, at some point as tech support, you're going to have to support them for other people that are using them in your company. So wouldn't it be great to have a hand in the decision-making process in regard to what exactly you're purchasing? Then not only do you know that it's a good product, but you also know how you can tell other people how to use it. So in that sort of way, you as a support worker can act as a liaison between the users and the IT staff. So you can explain to people why it's good. You can help people understand why the new thing that we have is going to help them, because we've talked about it before. We've talked about this idea of kind of being a translator for your user. So you're going to have a role in purchasing this product. You're going to understand how this product works. And then in turn, you're going to be able to better support it. And even more than that, you're going to be able to explain things to your users in user language, so that you can onboard them and make them excited about the things that they're using. But another thing that you can do is, since you understand your users on that same side of the coin, is you can communicate as a part of the product standards the needs of your users. Because you see these users come in every day. And you see the kinds of problems they come in with every day. And you think, well, if we could make this purchasing decision that reflected the needs of our users, then things are going to be a whole lot better, a whole lot easier in the long run. It's going to make my job a whole lot easier. So you're saving time, you're saving money. You have an understanding of what you're going to be supporting. And you have this idea that you can kind of communicate the needs of the users, because you're in the trenches, you're there with them. You can communicate the needs of the users and incorporate them into the product standards that you're developing. That makes life a whole lot easier on both your users and yourself. So let's get into a little bit of a history here with product standards. Defining product standards. The product standards are just lists of hardware, peripheral, operating system, network, and application software products selected to meet the needs of end users. So again, here the important part here is selected to meet the needs of end users. Who better understands the needs of end users than the people who are encountering them on a day-to-day basis? Now, in the 1980s, when we were seeing the proliferation of the personal computer out into the market, incompatibilities among computer products were common. And this even went into the 90s. Prior to the adoption of plug-and-play standards, we saw, specific hardware, specific software, specific peripherals for different computers that were on the market. Now, the vendors thought this was great, right? Because if we could kind of get this horizontal integration of all of our products for our one computer, then everybody who has to buy our one computer has to also buy these specific products to go along with it. You know, you can kind of think of it like if you've ever worked in retail, you can kind of think of it like the idea of add-on sales. Right? Like if I work at a shoe store, somebody comes in and buys a pair of shoes, I'm going to try to sell them a shoe shine kit or some socks to go along with it. This idea of add-on sales. Well, I mean, in the 1980s with these incompatible products, these computer manufacturers had control of the market in terms of add-on sales. You know, if you had an Apple II, you couldn't go buy just any floppy disk reader for your Apple II. You had to buy an Apple compatible floppy disk reader. But then we adopt plug-and-play standards, and plug-and-play standards is what we have nowadays. You know, we have this generalized understanding of this is how we can use something with our computers. We're going to all agree on these standards. And so as a result, nowadays you can pretty much go buy any peripheral and have it work with your system, regardless of what it is. Now, these computer compatibility issues caused a lot of problems. One is it limited opportunities to transfer and share data among users. If you've got users in your accounting department using one type of computer system and users in, say, your personnel department using another type of computer system, transferring data between those two different types of systems is difficult or even impossible. It required large inventories of parts to be stocked, because you had to have parts for each of the different types of PCs that you serviced instead of just some standard parts. Increased challenges to train and equip hardware service technicians to repair different platforms. Right? You know, in that sort of way, it almost becomes like an automotive service technician. You know, with all the different types of cars being made all different types of ways, with all different types of parts. We can really compare a lot of this to kind of automotive service. You know, by and large, there are some things that are kind of standardized in the automotive industry between different manufacturers. But by and large, we're seeing different parts put in different places with different configurations in different kinds of cars. User skills, difficult to transfer from one system to another. If you change, you have to learn something entirely new. Increased cost to support incompatible systems. So a support staff couldn't be experts on all the systems. You had to hire people who were experts on all the different types of systems. And you had to have training targeted towards specific platforms. So when we're looking at incompatibility of standards here, these are our big issues. So we decided that, you know, this was ridiculous, essentially, and, you know, we wanted to reduce acquisition and support costs, and in order to do that, we had to standardize things. And so this carries into what we do today. You know, for example, by and large, you know, if you work in an organization, every office that you go into is probably going to have a similar type of computer in it. So you're going to standardize the hardware platforms. For example, if you come on the campus of Cleveland Community College, we are a Dell school by and large. If you go into most of the offices and places around that have an individual PC, you will see that they are Dell branded. Now, a lot of this is because, you know, contract sort of situations, you know, being able to purchase with state funds and all that sort of stuff. But it also helps in servicing because, you know, you learn all the idiosyncrasies of the Dell manufacturer. Adopting a standard operating system. Same goes here. Windows 10 is the standard supported operating system in the organization. And we also, we extended that to a standardized network operating system in the 1990s. And you limit the choice of application software to a few standard application packages in each software category. So you limit the applications that can be used. You put regulations on that, not only for security purposes, but also to kind of minimize the amount of training and support that you have to do on different software packages. So let's talk about some methods for evaluating and selecting computer products, because we have a few of them here. One is product evaluation. Product evaluation, where, as we define that, it is the process of researching and analyzing computer product features, capabilities, and the suitability to solve the user's specific needs. So we can kind of break that down into two ways. We have what this product is capable of doing. Figuring out what the manufacturer says this product can do, and then comparing what the product can do against the user's needs. Critical. And so we have a process here for doing this. One is we're going to collect our product information. And oftentimes we can get this product information from the manufacturers, but we want to also try to make sure that they're telling us the truth. Because, by and large, when you're working with somebody to evaluate products, somebody from a company that is trying to sell you the product, they are oftentimes having a salesman work with you in these sorts of roles. These salesmen, they might not be experts on the product. They might be a little underhanded because they're trying to sell and make a commission. So in addition to just getting information from the company, another thing that you might want to do is actually see if you can get one for a test drive before you go ahead and make an adoption and buy hundreds or thousands of units. That way you have a first-hand knowledge of how the product works and how the product could meet your needs. This kind of testing and comparison and evaluation of advantages and disadvantages of competing products. So you're taking this testing data, you're comparing it against what the company said they could do. And I think another big thing to point out here is that we have on our slide here of competing products. We don't want to just look at one solution. We want to look at multiple solutions and try to determine the best one. And we've been doing that in some of the activities that we've been doing semester long. When I asked you to try to do a product evaluation of support help desk software. Now, since you aren't in a position to where you could actually get all the softwares and test them, we just did that from step 1 and kind of went from step 1 to step 3. But when you're in a position where you can actually get your hands on with things, try them out and take it a step further, we need to make sure that we do that so that we can see that the real world application of the software or the hardware or whatever matches the idealized version of it that the salesperson or the website or whatever has informed us that it has. So then when we have all this information, we can make a decision. We can make a well-informed, responsible decision. And it does require a lot of information to make this decision. So we need to kind of enter into this process with that in mind, that we're going to have to do a lot of work in research and testing before we can actually figure something out that's going to be suitable for our users' needs. This is a good question to ask ourselves as we're thinking about user needs. Is the traditional desktop PC dead? Several years ago, Redmond Magazine did a survey of business users, and they found that 85% plan to purchase a Windows-based PC, 10% plan to purchase a Chromebook or other kind of cloud-based PC, and 5% plan to purchase a tablet PC. So this was about 5, 6, maybe even more now. I don't quite remember years ago that this survey was done. And we can see now, kind of with what we know about technology and making decisions in order to put technology in the hands of users, that by and large, tablet PCs and mobile devices are used for the majority of users in an organization, because the majority of our users in an organization are going to be consumers of information. They're going to be looking at data. Now, when we flip that, we can say that desktop PCs are often the choice of producers of information. People that actually do the number crunching, people that are doing. So I feel like this is pretty interesting and pretty something to really think about. In terms of user needs, is who needs a desktop PC, who could get away with a tablet PC or cloud-based PC. And I think by and large, we're seeing a trend that's starting to go more mobile as well, with cloud-based PCs or tablet PCs or laptops. Because I think by and large, what we're starting to see in organizations are more BYOD type of situations with, in terms of computer policy, instead of less having a desktop set up at your workstation and doing that sort of thing. So while BYOD is also a security nightmare, it's becoming increasingly popular. And even still, as we kind of move into this new age that we're in now, and we're looking at how we handle telework and remote work, I mean, that's going to be 100% kind of BYOD in air quotes. But we also have to look at how these devices interface with, say, a private network. So we're seeing a trend that's going away from the standard, traditional desktop tower PC for mobility, because for mobility purposes and because of the increased power in tablet and cloud-based PCs, and the lower amount of people who are generally producers of information versus the consumers of information, which is a much higher amount of our user base. So when we're thinking about what kind of device that somebody needs, these are things that we have to take into consideration. Now, when we look at products, one of the things that we can do is we can look at what is the industry standard. What are everybody, what's the generally accepted piece of software that's being used in this particular industry? And it's typically determined by who the market leader is in sales for that particular area. We can also call these horizontal market applications. Not a big thing that you need to know, but something that's nice to know. Now, this isn't a standard that's defined by an independent organization. Again, it's just what people are buying. If multiple people buy a certain product, then by default, this certain product kind of becomes a standard. Because not only are they going to be kind of the thing that's promoted the most, but they're also going to be probably the thing that's getting the most regular updates because, if they're the market leader, they're making sales and generating revenue, and that's going to be able to be put back into product development. And also, they're going to have the most widely available support structure. If you go on YouTube and you search for software tutorials, are you going to be able to find more often the things that are used out there a bunch, or are you going to be able to find more often the things that are obscure and not used as much? I mean, for example, the Adobe Creative Suite is your industry standard for media creation. You go on YouTube, you find tons of tutorials about Photoshop and Illustrator and Premiere and After Effects, just absolute tons of them. Because they're the industry standard, they're what everybody's using. So not only is this information the most valuable for people, but it's also what people are looking for the most. You're not going to see as many about some kind of some kind of lower sold product. And one of the things that this can do is it can reduce support costs. If you're able to benefit from a wealth of knowledge that's already available, it can help you find answers in a more quick manner. And it can, just help you solve problems faster. And it's likely to be targeted by trade book publishers. Again, that's kind of the same thing as like the YouTube videos there. The industry standard, since most people are using that, book publishers are going to be on that. Training material developers are going to be on that. Support service vendors are going to be on that. Because they know it's widely used and people are going to need this information to be able to learn this software or be able to support this software. Now, some of the disadvantages is it might not meet the needs of some kind of specialized user. So if your user has some kind of need that isn't found in the industry standard, you'd have to look for something that met your user's needs, which takes you off the beaten path. And then standards kind of are, when we set our standards based on market share changes. Like, sure, Adobe is the biggest thing in the world right now, but what's going to be the biggest in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 50 years? If we base our standards on what is selling the most, then it's likely that we might have to completely change things out in a few years if something were to overtake that spot. Let's finish up here and just look at kind of an example of different types of software. And the idea that I've kind of pulled out here is for accounting software. And what we want to do when we're looking for accounting software is we want to figure out what the needs of our businesses are. And if you're working with a small business versus a medium kind of big-ish business versus a huge business, they're all going to have different needs in terms of accounting software. Like small businesses, they're going to be able to probably use an off-the-shelf product. They're not doing as many sales. They don't have as many employees to encounter and take care of. So by and large, simple features can meet the needs. With something like QuickBooks, or FreshBooks or, any of the basic accounting packages that are out there, they can do pretty much everything that they need to do. Manage invoices, manage payrolls, because, they're working with a limited number of people because it's a small business, and, just do like profits and losses and kind of balance the checkbook and all that kind of stuff. But when we outgrow these basic features, you're starting to need new software for specialized needs. Like medium to large scale businesses might have multiple locations. You might have special tax handling processes. Maybe you're even an international business and you have to deal with things in different countries and pay taxes in different countries. And at this point, you're going kind of beyond the limitations of some of these small software packages. So if you try to use something like QuickBooks in a medium to large scale sort of business situation, very quickly you'll be met with barriers to being able to do the things that you need to do. Even more so with very large scale businesses, huge businesses. At that point, when you are, a huge business, one of the things that you might have to do is create your own program from scratch. Because especially very large scale businesses, like if you think about things like in terms of like Amazon's business situation is a whole lot different than the local coffee shop down the road. And they're going to have custom situations, and they're going to have custom needs that are specific to them as a huge business. So you might have to have your own piece of software written that is specialized to your business, to your company. So we can see here that different sizes of businesses need different things. And I think that's kind of the big idea coming out of all of the product evaluation stuff that we're kind of talking about, is that different organizations need different things. And you, as the expert, as the person on the front lines who is talking to the users, who has or should have a good understanding of your users' needs, because you're encountering them on a day-to-day basis and you're practicing your empathy and you are listening to them and you're understanding what's going on. You take these needs of these individuals and the needs of this company, and you use them as the basis to make the decisions. And if the needs can be met by a simple off-the-shelf product, great. If the needs have to be met by a more specialized, special ordered product, great. If the needs have to be met by a completely customized product that you have to try to build from scratch, great. Regardless of what you end up purchasing, as long as it is reflexive of your users' needs, then you've made the best decision that you could make in terms of product evaluation. And there's a whole lot more we can get into. Like in your textbook, you'll learn about a whole lot more strategies. We've already gone over what I like to do for a live stream limit here. There's a whole other level of a science to product evaluation. But what I really want you to get out of this is kind of what we've talked about today. When we've kind of made this illusion of, or illustration of this cavern or chasm, this sort of separation between a problem state and a goal state. And we're looking at that again here. We have the problem state and the goal state, and this time, in this instance, the bridge is the product that we end up purchasing, the hardware, the software. And we can end up with 3 different types of bridges across this gap. One being very rickety, being full of holes, being something that you could still fall through easily that doesn't really meet our needs. Another being completely over-engineered and over-complicated. Might even be confusing for the person trying to get across. But either way, it cost way too much money to build for the features that's actually being used. Or the bridge that's just right. That is exactly what your user needs to get from point A to point B, to get from their problem state to their goal state. So we understand user needs. We're able to communicate with our users. We're able to listen to our users. And we're able to help the users have their needs met with the products that we've evaluated for purchase. Something to kind of mull over in your mind as you continue your modulate work. That's all that I have for you for this week. I appreciate you all watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. Send me an email. I will hang out in the chat for just a couple minutes after I'm done here, just to see if anybody has any questions who is here live with me today. But again, if you have any questions, please let me know. That's all that I have for you for this week. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.